Okay. Oh, there we go. I'm live. I'm live. I'm live. Hello, Brett. Hopefully, be saying hello, AIDzee sometime soon, because he is supposedly going to join. Also, I have a new microphone, and I hope it's working. It's a bit of an experiment. I actually got the microphone for podcasting. I thought I'd try it on here to see if it made it any better. So I will have to defer to the judgment of the audience if it is a good idea or not. Hello, Fox of Fate. How are you? Okay, it's very interesting. I was texting AIDzee a bit earlier about going live tonight, and he's gung ho for it. And it was only a couple minutes ago, but he hasn't replied since I sent him the link to join the live stream. So I don't know if that means he's zonked out some. Oh wait, no. There's a thing. Let's bring him on.
Hello.
Hello, we're live. How are you?
I'm sick because I broke my collarbone in 2 places and 3 ribs and fractured 2 more.
Yes, for those who missed AIDzee's misadventures last time he was on here, his misadventures are pretty big, actually. But he's a brave little soldier, and he's soldiering on.
I'm soldiering on because they won't give me any drugs.
Now that's kind of sucky. Now, here's the thing: can you see the chat tonight? Because they've done a couple of updates to this little application I'm using for the live streaming. So,
okay, hang on. Let me do this. I can see the chat.
You can. Excellent.
I can see people on the chat. I'm pointing.
That's an upgrade. That's an upgrade. Then that's good.
I can't read anything because I'm totally dyslexic, but I can see pretty pictures.
Yeah, you can see that there's stuff happening there. So yeah, I'm actually.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? Thank you very much for looking at us.
Yeah, I joined this service, which is called what's it called? StreamYard. God, my brain just went totally blank. I joined it because they had like a free option, but I actually paid. You get features in the corner. Where is it? It's like
Wow.
God, there. The mirror thing is really above your head, basically.
Above my head is a picture of you looking a bit sexy.
The cartoon thing. We've got our own icon, so we can have whatever icon we want on it now. And if I learn how to do it, we can have a range of graphic options too. So it's all customizable now. So I'm paying them. So who else is in here? We've got.
Can we have like a dick and balls?
Technically, we could, yes.
No, we're not going to do that, are we?
But we're not going to.
You're going to say no, AIDzee, no more dick and balls. You know, it's a high school thing.
Keeping it to a minimum. Yeah. So who we got? We've got joining us in chat is Brett, Fox of Fate, Heine, CrossFitter, Justin, Luke. A few people saying hello. It's nice to see.
Yeah, it is nice to see. Hello, everyone. How you going? I'm going to be doing everything with my right hand today because my left shoulder and my
the collarbone is broken on the left side.
Yeah, in 2 places. Yeah. Do you know how cool it was when I fell down the stairs? Right. Okay, so there's like 30 stairs. Okay, and my foot just missed the top stair.
Yeah.
Right, just missed it, like by millimeters. I didn't get enough purchase on it. Down I came, and we have a guy living in the house now who is an Indian doctor. but he's over
Uh-huh.
here to do his internship again so that he can get licensed in Australia. And he came down the stairs and basically gave me a full physical workup. And he was telling people what to do. And on the telephone, one of the guys at the telephone, and he was saying stuff to the dispatcher.
Yeah.
And halfway through, the dispatcher said, "Just can you give me the guy who's saying everything, please?" And he said, "Just hold the phone up to my ear." And he gave her like such a full rundown that she put it all on the computer, and she's saying, "Just hang on, let me just put that down. Hang on, let me just finish that sentence." And it just beamed straight out to the ambulances, and I only had to wait 15 minutes for one to turn up.
It's a bonus.
Really good.
I just feel like his idea, after you going down the stairs and him doing a physical workup, I imagine the summary was like, well, he's fucked. It's just like...
Yeah, pretty much. It was, this dodgy motherfucker's gone. And they did that thing where they say, "Did you lose consciousness at any time?" And I went, "Yeah, for a couple seconds." And I went, right, there you go. And so then they checked out my head, and I had a fracture on my head.
Bang.
Sort of there, and went sort of there. And what was really weird was when they x-rayed it, as they were x-raying it, because it was so tiny, it was so light, it was actually healing as they were x-raying it.
Oh, yeah.
And they went, "Wow, we've seen this before," but and I had this big bruise on my head.
Yeah.
A contusion. I'll have you know.
So all the little nanobots that aliens put into your system were stitching up the skull as they watched.
Yeah, and essentially, then there was the tricky bit of when I was first in emergency, the doctor came around and said, "So what drugs are you on?" And I told him. He went, "Ah, that makes everything tricky. All right, we'll give you a full bottle of morphine." I'm going, "Yes!" Because I'm a fan.
Yes.
And so bang, in it went, and it was like, "Oh, the broken bones are much, much better." So then they fiddled around with them, because that's why they gave me the morphine.
Yes.
Fiddled around with them, and they said, "Oh, that's broken. Oh, that's broken. Oh, that's broken. Oh, that's broken too. Oh, that's only fractured. Oh, that's only fractured. Oh, you're looking good, damn." And so then they said, "Okay, well, problem number one is sucks to be you, because we can't put a splint or a cast on any of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just gotta do its thing without any mechanical help." So I'm going, sucks. And then they said, also, because of the anti-addiction drugs, methadone, that you're on, can't give you any drugs. I'm going, no, broken bones. You can make the exception. And they said, "Oh, no. We're going to drop your level of methadone." And that was my doctor did that. My prescribing doctor did that. I have two GPs. They're just the prescribing doctor and my normal doctor. And the prescribing doctor, who's pretty much a prick, dropped the level of methadone, and it doesn't work anyway. So I was just getting that, and I was going, I have broken bones, and everyone around me who had broken bones had one of those clicky buttons.
God, give me one more thing.
Where's my clicky button? Right? I love the clicky button. It's my favoriteest thing in a hospital because you go click and then it gives you more morphine and you go, oh, and then the light goes on, you go click, and then anyway, they all had clicky buttons and I didn't, and I was going, sucks to be me. And then then I got pneumonia. And every time I coughed, it was like someone was punching me in the broken ribs and collarbone from the inside. You know how you get punched from the outside and it hurts?
Yes.
Right? This is being punched from the inside. It was like a crack. And one of the ribs healed, and I had a big cough, and it cracked again. And the nurses basically said, "This is bullshit. This is just ridiculous." And they said, "Did they give you a brace?" And I said, "What's the brace?" And she was going, "Oh Jesus!" And she's gone away, and she like had several towels and made them into a roll and taped them together. And you put it under your arm, and every time you cough, it absorbs some of the pound. And she and several other nurses went, "This no drugs for AIDzee thing is bullshit."
A little bit harsh.
Yeah, we've got to revise the thing. And all the doctors went, "Yeah, we gave him pneumonia. We better give him some drugs." So, yeah, they did. And I was only supposed to be in hospital like 3 days. But I was there for like a week and a half because I kept on coughing and re-breaking my bones.
God damn.
And that really hurts.
Yeah.
Like,
I imagine
yeah,
so.
cough, big cough, and you hear it crack, and then you feel it, and you just go, "Oh, that's not good." So then you call a nurse and go, "I re-cracked a bone," because they said when you re-crack a bone, tell us. And so I kept on going, "I re-cracked a bone." They said, "All right, breathe deep because you know what we got to do." And what they had to do was feel which bone re-cracked. And I would tell them it was a rib or, and point at the one I thought it was, or my collarbone. And so they had to like feel where it was. And they go, "Oh yeah, it's this bit," or "Oh yeah, it's this one." And they'd note it down. And in the morning, the doctors would go, "You got to stop re-breaking your bones, dude." And I'm going to kill you. And so it was the biggest game of rugby you've ever seen in your life because I kept on going, "I'm in a lot of pain," and they'd pass the ball to the other team. And then the other team would like pass the ball to the other team. And they finally said, "Oh, yeah, no, you've got to get drugs off your GP." And my normal GP will not give you drugs. Will not give you drugs. And my dosing GP, the methadone GP, will not give you drugs. And so I was going, okay, so it's going to be a long process of healing and a deep refinding of character and being a miserable prick. Boss of the house, had to leave a few times to get a respite from being, me being a miserable, annoying shit. And a couple of times I didn't get out of the house in the day. And so I get back down to the chemist next day and they go, "Where were you?" So I couldn't get out of the house. Initially, it took me 2.5 hours to get dressed. And I had to shower in bits. So I'd have a bit of a shower and stop, bit of a shower and stop, bit of a shower and stop. So if I didn't get anywhere, It'd take me like 4 hours to get ready and go. I was
God damn.
oh, dude. Damn.
Oh,
Go on, yeah.
I should say, sharing medical stories. Brett's saying your tale thing similar to when he had a hernia repaired. Got told to hold a towel against his stomach if he coughed, so he didn't fuck up his hernia while it was here. Had to hold everything in. Ashoka, meanwhile, is obsessed with engines. He's saying in one of the comments, there's these interesting comments from Ashoka. Can remember in 1979, everyone could break down an engine and put it back together again, have their engine and car in place, no problem. Well, maybe you could. I never could. Average person in Australia can strip a Nissan and put it back together, have it on the road in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know I used to work with a guy.
Well, no, not a Nissan, but a Datsun.
No, sorry. That was some weird typo. He meant to say engine.
Yeah. But you could get a Datsun 120Y, and they were like common as rocks.
I worked with a guy.
And they came in a range of baby sick and baby poo colours.
They were yellow and brown colours, yeah.
Yeah, and they had one of the most amazing things about the Datsun 120Y was they had this maroon, darkish red schoolgirl dress colour, right? Not the blue, but the red.
Maroon, yeah.
That maroon. And if you had a Grevillea hedge, the bloody thing would disappear in front of it. It was like weird camouflage, and there was so many accidents with these cars at roundabouts that they put a thing in Canberra where you had to put the hedge back a little bit.
Right.
And it became a thing. It became a real thing. First, people were saying, yeah, I didn't see it. And then lots of people were saying, yeah, I didn't see it. And then the cops were going, you can't see him. And they checked it out, and they did all the numbers, and they said, that's weird. That's really weird. And then they did a thing where they got normal people to stand at a roundabout and got this, Datsun 120Y to turn up in a stream of cars. And the majority of people would miss the one Datsun 120Y. So I just said that's the weirdest thing. Yeah, there are new trends in
good, that works.
Yes, I have.
I'm highlighting comments for you. You've heard of it.
I have heard about the new tram in Canberra. My folks have been on it. There is opposition to it because expensive, so expensive.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen, because they've done this very cleverly, is it's going to go out to okay, let me just explain one thing. AIDzee is done on a Y.
Sure.
The Y plan. So you got the C in the middle, and up on the left stream of the Y is another town centre. The right stream of the Y is another town centre, and down south is another town centre. This tram goes down the guts of the city, and it goes up to where the Y splits. And that's obviously what they're going to do, is they're going to split this Y, and they're going to go then, lastly, they're going to go south. Because as soon as they get to the town centres with these trams, they're going to be effective, and they're going to be full. Most people in Canberra work in the public service, and the town is empty, at 8, and then at 8:45 it's like boom, there's close to 1 million people in 3 government centres.
Out of interest, when I was texting you a bit earlier and you're talking about, is there any particular topic? And I just suggested that you look up something at random. Did you actually find anything? What did you find?
Okay, I found a thing called the Schützenfest. Have you ever heard of this? Schützenfest.
No.
Okay, this is a Switzerland-German thing.
Yeah.
It's a 3-day event traditionally, and what happens is on the first and second day, you go into the beer halls and get pissed out of your mind. And on the second half of the second day, you take shotguns and shoot fake wooden birds and mirrors out of the trees.
I looked it up. Schützenfest means shooting festival.
Yeah. And basically the biggest one is in Hanover, and 50,000 people participate. And when they do the opening parade, it's 12 kilometers long.
Oh my
it's
God.
one of the longest parades in the world, right? And so, Schützenfest, basically, boss of the house is now taking stuff away from me. He's allowed to because he's boss of the house. What do you need? Okay, fair enough. He's got alien tendencies, and does things according to what he's decided to do. There you go, Schützenfest.
From Schützenfest.
Yeah.
Guy's got a gun and he's shooting things while people watch.
That's right. And in Hanover, 50,000 people do this. And so there's 2 versions, right? There's the version where the gun is locked in place.
Yes.
And you shoot bird off a target, and you get points for where you shoot it. And you get maximum points and get king of the festival if you manage to shoot it off the board. If you shoot it off the board, they hang it around your neck, and you are king of the festival for a whole year. And the other bit is where they go through a forest in the nearby town, shooting mirrors and fake birds out of the trees. So there's like these hundreds and hundreds of guys.
Oh no!
With guns and really bright clothes on. I imagine these days there'd be like a fluoro vests and blowing up trees, going, that's my mirror. No, that's my mirror. No, that's my mirror. Okay, they both have shotguns. That's what is very amazing, though, is we have one here in Australia, in Adelaide.
Yes.
And
bunch of German Nazi war criminals. Nazi war criminals fled to Adelaide. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then make wine. Because they know how to now.
Yes, in the Barossa.
Project Wine Clip. Anyway, so I reckon you and me should go to Schützenfest in Adelaide.
Go to the Adelaide Schützenfest. Yeah.
And shoot and shoot stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon it'd be fun.
Yeah.
And I reckon we should video and watch us get slowly shit-faced and shoot shit out of trees.
Yeah. Is it? Yes. This question, Ashoka's saying, what can we remember for 1980? Trying to remember. So
Okay.
1980, I was 14. What year was I in? I was in like year 8 or 9. So like, oh man, that's when I got hit in the head with a discus. Speaking of
You got hit in the
fractured
head with a
skulls.
discus. Yeah, and that's why your head's so big.
Yeah. And you were talking about your fracture apparent seeming to heal while they were watching. I didn't have one. Once they worked out what had actually happened, because they ignored me, country town casualty ward, they ignored me for
Country
ages.
town doctors, yeah. Yeah.
And it was only because a friend of my sister's was a nurse there, and she said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Andrew got hit in the head with the discus. Oh my God, what the doctor say? We haven't seen one. What? When did you get here? 4 hours ago.
Yeah, it's like a head
So
injury.
she ran backstage, and I'm betting the word malpractice was used, and
Yeah.
the doctor came out really quickly. But yeah, they were once they heard, they were sure I'd have a skull fracture, so they went and did all these head X-rays. No fractures. I personally thought the skull looked a bit like Cro-Magnon Man in profile, but
I'm not going to say shit about that.
no.
I'm not going to say anything about that. I've known you for a long time, and I've seen you pick stuff up. I have an opposable thumb, even though I've got arthritis.
Yes.
You tend to pick stuff up like that, and I don't want to. I don't want to. You know.
No, that's a fair call. That's a fair call.
I also know that head injuries back in the day were treated very differently. There was no such thing as helmets on bicycles.
That's
They
true.
didn't come in until 1988. And what they were crash hats. And they sucked. They looked fucking terrible, and no kids would wear them. Because you look like a dick.
Yes.
And so then they changed and they remodeled and they made them so that the other thing was the crash hats didn't work. You'd fall off and still get a head injury.
There certainly are people who argue that they're useless and you might as well ditch the legal requirement to wear one because they don't help. But you never know. I don't know. I never really know who to believe in these arguments because you get these people going, "Oh, the nanny state's gone too far," and usually full of crap.
What I happen to know,
is
skateboard riders recommend to their bike riding friends that they wear skateboard helmets because skateboard helmets are one step below motorcycle helmets. Because when you come off a skateboard, you're going at a fair clip, and your angle of face plant is usually random. It is not unusual to hit head first.
Coming off a skateboard, you're usually doing something stupid. So it's like
I mean, you're usually sliding down a rail for some stairs, and bang, your head hits, and so does your shoulder, and you've got basically road rash and broken shit going on. So the skaters, sometimes they don't wear the helmets because they're cool, but as soon as they have an accident, helmet goes on.
Yes, absolutely.
And you see the pros, and they've all got, full-on helmets. Tony Hawk used to wear this helmet that came down. It was open, but it came down like a sort of Greek Roman thing down. Just, to cover his. And when he got asked about it, he said, "Well, what actually happens is if I hit on any kind of angle that will crack my neck, the actual helmet will slide, and the cheek plate will stop any lateral movement of the head that would break my neck. And Tony Hawk used to do some crazy shit. I saw him basically jump between two water towers, which were basically 20 stories up. If you stuffed that up, it would have been Tony Hawk was a great man. A Buddhist.
Well, I think he did break lots of bones over the years, didn't he?
A shitload of bones. And he started advocating that don't worry about how cool you look. Don't worry about that. If you pull off the trick, you'll look cool. Okay. But to pull off the trick, you've got to practice the trick, and you will fall over. So padding is going to work for you. If you fall over and you break shit, you can't practice anymore. And so some of the kids actually took his advice and did the thing. It's weird. In Australia right now, you've got this weird dichotomy between skate kids who will wear protective gear and skate kids who won't. The skate kids who won't tend to be the travelers, and they're kick push skate. They're just traveling from school to home. They're traveling from their place to their mate's place. The kids who tend to put protective gear on are the ones who are doing half pipe or big drop. The kids who are doing skate park interesting topology don't. But the kids who are doing really massive drop. We've got a skate park here where I live, and one of the drops is really big. It's a really big drop. And the older kids who do that drop tend to have the gear on. I've seen one kid face plant because he got a stone or something in his wheel, and you could hear the wheel scrape on the ground or on the wall as he was coming down. And he went, "Oh shit!" And it's still like 3 meters up, going very quickly, and just Supermaned it, and then bang, straight onto the ground, and his nose was just flat. Blood everywhere.
New sort of cosmetic surgery.
Hey?
New sort of cosmetic surgery.
Yeah. And the other thing, and this really blew my mind, was as he came down, the natural thing is to put your arms out, to stop yourself. And he just had the presence of mind to put his arms behind him, Naruto run style, and just leave them there as he hit. So he hit flat. His nose took it, but the helmet took everything else. And yes, he had road rash, but he broke his sternum and his nose and one rib. And I've broken a sternum and a rib. That was the one before. And the sternum heals up really quick. The rib, unfortunately, doesn't, because you cough and crack open, it goes again.
You were doing the helmet stuff. It also reminds me of those pictures I see with, from motorcyclists with and this is why you wear a full face helmet, where you see a helmet and like several millimeters of the front has been ground off,
ground down,
flown off the bike and face planted and slid along at 100 kilometers an hour, and it's ground off several millimeters of the helmet, as opposed to the face underneath. So it was like,
yeah.
It's why you wear them.
I've seen that where those Grand Prix motorcyclists.
Yeah.
And one of them, Naughty Dog, Australian Todd, was it? Anyway, he's come on and said, yeah, a lot of people, yes, I am actually able to see the live feed tonight, Safa. I can't read it. I can see it.
AIDzee can actually see it, but it's too small and the dyslexia is a battle. But occasionally I've just used that feature for fun to put a comment up there. And I knew if I put that one up there, he would see it. And because I'm having fun, there's actually much more that you can do with this.
I have noticed that you have been playing a lot.
Yeah, I go play with all the features. I've been changing the little picture in the logo. That's the Blumenstein artwork of us in the corner now.
A genius, by the way.
Yes, the guy we know who's a cartoonist, animator, all-round genius. He's got a new book that's come out with a fundraiser about Tony Abbott. I think it's called What We Tell the Kids. It's quite good. It's just basically, exploring the evil of the LNP and that thing. So,
I was just going to finish off, and this guy was saying a lot of people don't think it's cool to put on padding. But my friends think it is. And there was like all these shots of Grand Prix drivers coming off at 200 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
And they've got, and also seeing them corner, and they've got padding on their knees. And they come over so far that their knees are scraping on the ground. The most dangerous thing you can do on a motorcycle is what they call a high side. So a motorcycle will come down and you are vertically on it, okay? It'll come down and it will naturally, because of the weight distribution of you and the motorcycle, go sideways and slide. Traditionally what happens is it comes down and you come down under it, and because of the friction of your protective gear, made out of leather and rubber and Kevlar and lots of other stuff, you will slow down quicker than the bike. Marginally, but you won't be trapped under it unless you're hooked in, and that's bad. And you see these guys slide, and then they'll get onto the grass, and they'll get up and walk. They'll get up and walk away. But you see then the other way to do it is to high side, and the bike will spin sideways and flick the rider up and over and forwards, which is bad because you're coming down from a height of about 4 or 5 meters at a speed of about 200 kilometers per hour. And you also remember going slower than the bike. So the bike is going to catch up with you and hit you
there's a few spectacular
after you've
videos
slapped
of that sort of
the
thing.
ground, and the bike's going to then, punch shit out of you, and you want to just hope that you're hitting the kitty litter. And, usually they stop the race at that point, and the ambulance, screams out there, and, it's all very...
I'm also just sharing Blumenstein's latest thing. The book's called, it's an illustrated book, cross between a comic and a book, called What We Tell Them. and it's well worth getting that link. You just go on the Possible crowdfunding site and search What We Tell Them, and you can get a copy of it. I got a copy of his last one, which was about the pickup artists. I don't know if you're the Roosh V Tour of Australia.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
It was really interesting because no, I won't say. I won't say why. There's a big surprise in it.
Yeah,
There's
but
a big surprise in it.
I got a copy of that one. I'm going to get a copy of this Tony Abbott one as well.
We should so go to Schützenfest.
Go to Schützenfest, yes.
Yeah, and get fucking hammered and blow shit out of trees.
Let me see if I can share the example of Blumenstein's artwork, because it's
absolutely
very
do
good.
that.
Let me see. I'm working out this fun interface and things I can do. Here we go. Overlay. This one. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so show. See, that's Blumenstein artwork there. He's getting, it's good old Scummo with the thing of coal, Tony Abbott and friends, and a big scary floating Peter Dutton head, and even the poodle himself. So he's a good artist. Oh, look, I shrank you. That is the power I have.
That's fair. That's fair. I deserve to be shrank.
Ooh, but see, this is the thing now. There. See, I couldn't do that prior to this week. They added this feature that everyone was asking for. Can you make the guest full screen? Yes. And I can. I shrank you again. Now we're equal. See, it's equal now.
I wouldn't say equal. I would say that I'm different to you, sir.
Yes.
I would say that, sure, I can strip down a Nissan. Well, no, sorry, a Datsun.
A Datsun, yes.
Not a Nissan, because the Nissan started to put the computers in. And what happened in 1990 was pretty much all the cars, hi, Charlie, pretty much all the cars went over to the fuel injection.
Yes.
And fuel injection either requires specialized pumps or simply a computer. And what they found was the fuel that was coming to Australia was because we get our fuel from Singapore, and our fuel is grade C. Grade C fuel is one up from grade D.
That makes sense. Yes.
Right. Grade D fuel goes to Bangladesh, goes to Myanmar.
You're saying it's ordinary, is what you're saying.
Oh, worse than ordinary. Much worse than ordinary. And so in oil fuels, our grade C fuel has to be refined to a point where you can stick it in your car. But we found very quickly with fuel injection that the grade C fuels refining wasn't enough. Russian fuel does smell like arse. Yes, it does. It's really weird. It smells like arse because it's got a lot of sulfur in it.
Well, that would definitely make it smell like farts. Yes.
Yeah. It's got a lot of sulfur in it. Anyway, so effectively, what they did was they said we can make these fuel pumps able to change their spray pattern, but that will cost a fucking fortune. Or we can get computer programmers to read the fuel as it comes through the line with optics, and then they can change the spray pattern of the fuel injection. And as computers got better, what they also found was they can change the spray pattern to inject less fuel while you're going fast. When you're going fast, you don't need as much power. You're already 120, 130. So you don't need to, flog the guts out of it. You just need to keep that so you can. But this was before they started to stop cylinders going. That was the next thing that the computers did. They stopped.
That's the electronic one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They stopped cylinders because you don't need to even use them. But before that, they used the computers to change the spray patterns. Because the computers changed the spray patterns, they had to change the timing. They had to change the obviously the pumping, but they also had to change the flywheel speed and the flywheel clutching. The clutch.
You're getting a bit into minutiae here.
Well, this is what I'm saying is that in 1980 you could get a Datsun, take it apart, right? Wipe an oily rag around where it was grinding on one of the cylinders. Put some more oil in it, put it back together, and drive it away next day, right? Now, if you take apart a car, what they do is when you open the bonnet, there's either yellow or red, right?
Yeah.
And that's the stuff you're allowed to touch.
Yes.
Anything else, you're not allowed to touch.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, my brother-in-law used to do that with 60s Volkswagen Beetles. He'd have a couple on the go and be swapping parts. I know I worked with a guy a few years ago, and he had a Holden Camira. It was one of the last ones that was made at Werribee, and it was the last one before they were electronic. And he loved it because he could take it apart and put it back together. And he it's so funny having conversations with him at work, like, oh, there was something wrong with the car, and I pulled everything apart, and I put it back, and I have to take it to a specialist, and I'm so pissed off that I couldn't fix it myself. And I'm thinking, like, dude, you are like the 1% of the 1% of the population who will take their own car apart to try and fix it.
Yeah, confidently take it apart.
He was so pissed off when it was something so arcane, he had to take it to a specialist because he didn't have the right machine to fix the bit that was flaky. I was like, whoa, dude. Most people, they hear a vague knocking noise, they don't even look, and they just take it straight to a mechanic.
Straight to the mechanic. Yeah, straight to the mechanic. And nowadays, you've not only got to take it to a mechanic, you've got to take it to a mechanic who can work on your brand of car.
Yes, with all the computers and shiz, they have to have the right gear. So you either have to go to a dealer or a fairly specialized repair place that actually has all the right gear. It used to just be, Stavros with his backyard operation, taking engines apart.
Yeah. And I, weirdly enough, I took the family car to Stavros with the backyard operation was AIDzee a mechanic in the past? No, I was never a mechanic in the past, but what I was a labourer that my old man would pimp out to anyone who wanted a help.
Yeah.
So I would be a cleaner, I would be a job site cleaner, I would be, torch holder. The third hand you need to do the basic stuff. Go and get me the left-handed screwdriver.
Yeah.
And so, I took the family car to Stavros. It's a computer car, and it's a backyard operation. And you take the car into his place and round the back, and he's got this like huge what's the bloody word for it? It's a it's not a shed, it's just a roof on some poles. Not portico, it's
carport.
Carport. Thank you. So he had this huge carport, You take your car in, and there was freaking computers everywhere. And he and his kids would come out and plug the computer in, start your car up, and go, "Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, good." And twice when I took the car over there, they didn't actually touch the tools. They just reprogrammed the computer. Car ran like a kitten, and off I went. And they said, "Yeah, that'll be $200." So yeah, and it was like, it took 15 minutes, and it was easy. And I'm just going, "Fuck, the world has changed." And then the World Wide Web came, and the world is a different place now.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna shift gears. Tell you about a podcast I've been listening to, and I don't know what made me think of this because it's not really what we've been talking about. But there's a guy called Robert Evans, and anyone who's into Hollywood trivia might go, "Wait, Robert Evans? He's a really famous producer from the 70s. Like, I think he produced the Godfather films." It's not that Robert Evans. In fact, this guy often refers to himself as the other Robert Evans. He's like 40 years younger than this. But again, if you want some funny stuff, you can probably find interviews with producer Robert Evans on YouTube, and that guy is a fucking lunatic. He's hilarious. He obviously did way too much cocaine in the 70s, and his reminiscences and his stories are absolutely wild. But
wasn't he also involved in Apocalypse Now?
Probably. He was involved in a whole bunch of shit in the 70s.
Because the Apocalypse Now took 3 years to shoot.
It was Francis Ford Coppola had a heart attack on set, and
it took years to.
It was a disaster. Yeah. Apparently, it was an absolute nightmare to work. And not Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen. He had a fucking heart attack on set as well, and it was a disaster. But it turned into an interesting movie. Some people regard it as a great movie, a masterpiece. I'm not sure if I do. It's an interesting movie, certainly. But that's a different Robert Evans. He's an interesting guy in his own right. But this guy's like 40 years younger. He's a millennial podcast journalist. He's actually he specializes in conflict journalism, as in going to war zones and whatnot. And this dude's done shit. He's gone to Afghanistan, gone to Iraq when the surge was on. Like, he's and I think he grew up in the South in the US. He's very, very left wing, but he grew up in the South, so he grew up around guns and stuff. So he's a real sort of contradiction in terms. But he has a fun podcast called Behind the Bastards, where he researches bastards from history and tells you bits of the story you probably don't know. And but he has another one called It Could Happen Here. And the first season of that is speculating on American Civil War V2. And he's going, and he's basically saying, what are the chances that there could be an actual civil war in America today? What would it look like? And he's telling all his experience growing up with rednecks and going to war zones. And it's fucking
not that far away.
No, it's spooky as fuck.
It's really fucking not that far away. I mean, what's weird is every time there's a disaster in America, they eat themselves. Every time. Every time something goes wrong, they start on each other. And the reason we here in Australia think that's weird is that whenever there's a disaster here, everyone puts their shit beside them, and we come together and look after one another. That's the standard protocol. Is it's not a circle, it's a huddle. And the people in the middle of the huddle are the most damaged or vulnerable, and the people on the outside of the huddle have the knives pointing out. So it's a big huddle where everyone's doing stuff to look after one another. And that's how we operate, and it's just core programming. Okay. So what's weird is you look at somewhere like America, and they start shooting one another. Immediately, hi, Beatles fan. Wow, thanks for staying up at 5 o'clock in the morning to say hi to us.
Yeah, I think
That's
we get
really cool.
insomniacs. Either they're up very early or they just haven't slept. People from the northern hemisphere, we get insomnia. Like Sarfa's pointing out when you're talking about civil war, like look what happened in eastern Ukraine. Again, this guy Robert Evans was in the fucking Ukraine when that shit. This guy, he's just obviously a danger junkie. And he's in Ukraine. And what interesting what you say about America eating themselves. What he speculates, he says, look, everyone sees the fringe right-wing wackos as the most likely ones to try and start an insurrection. But he talks about what the left could do. But what he speculates is that if either side started really serious insurrection type activity, the other side would probably take advantage of the turmoil. Like he speculates people in the left would be more likely to do things like the Occupy Wall Street thing, but militarized in the big cities. And your rednecks with guns in the rural areas would do what rednecks with guns do, and they would do hit and run guerrilla attacks. And he's basically, because he was in fucking Iraq and Syria and Ukraine, and he saw what they did, and he specialized. He's basically saying, yeah, no, people would do this hit and run shit, and whereas the US military has had a lot of experience now in the last 2 decades of urban warfare, he said it would not, if it reached a tipping point, it would not be an easy thing to stop. But it wouldn't be like the first civil war where there were 2 armies facing off against each other.
It would be fractured.
It'd be like Fallujah and Ukraine and
Syria. Yeah.
It would be
totally fractured. And every warlord trying to get its own piece.
Yeah.
And you'd get basically all these warlords trying to get economic base to spread their territory. And you get all these other warlords trying to shut down their economic base to get all this territory, and it'd be a fucking mess.
Yeah,
because if you think about the science in America, which is what keeps it going, it's spread all over the country.
Yes.
So you can basically own your bit of science territory and use that to make your defensive weapons and economic base work. So just think of this, all right? You get to the place where they're testing and making the railgun. You force them to put a half-made railgun together, and you sell that to Asian and Russian countries, and you get a shitload of cash. And then with that, you buy plutonium.
Yeah.
So, you see how this is all going down?
Yeah.
And, can the US Army be used locally or just the National Guard? The US Army has been used locally. It was done a couple times. It was in the past, and they're not supposed to. And
it was the recent they've done it multiple times. The most recent was probably the cyclone that hit in the South, New Orleans. What was that one? That they actually
Katrina.
But Katrina, basically, the president can declare a state of emergency, which allows
and martial law.
And martial law. They did it when the LA riots happened. They did it when Martin Luther King was shot, and there was rioting that lasted a couple of weeks. Basically, the authorities can declare a state of emergency and deploy US troops on home soil. What's interesting in this podcast, Robert Evans points out, it's very unlikely, at first at least, that the US military could get away with the level of brutality it does on the brown people. Like they can't just start bombing city blocks and machine gunning people in the street, but
just
they
initially.
but they can shoot people in protests and riots, and they do that now, and they have done it in the past. They do it with snipers rather than fucking gunships or anything.
Well, do you remember that Black Lives Matter protest where the black snipers started shooting cops, and that was worldwide news. That was worldwide news. Whereas every other time there's a black protest and the white snipers start taking people out, no one fucking hears about it.
But
it's no biggie.
Again, that was one of the notable ones. But again, this podcast talks about the guy who did that at the Black Lives Matter, and there was another one in LA. They were both ex-military, and they were both completely pissed off with the system. And at the time, it seemed like everything was going to explode. But it just went like half the time we say to people, "Oh, do you remember the Black Lives Matter rally where a sniper shot a couple of cops?" A lot of people would have to really stretch their memory because so much insane shit has happened in the meantime. It's like, and of course, there's a couple incidences of black shooters shooting cops. But what gets almost no press coverage is the dozens and dozens of white guys who've killed cops in the meantime. And these are the extreme right-wing sovereign citizen types who think it's their right to kill cops because cops are overreaching and whatnot. But how America hasn't exploded. I mean, this guy explores things like how most of the food in the US comes from California. And how most of the water in California is in this tiny little corner of Northern California, and it's pumped everywhere else. And this little bit of Northern California is very conservative and has had a movement for secession that's never been taken seriously, but has been active for decades. And if they got serious and they started blowing up water pumping stations and ripping up train tracks and hijacking trucks that were moving food, they could fuck up America really quickly.
For the first time in history, 8 years ago, the American government has put defensive weapons around Hoover Dam. They're concealed, basically. They're not like hidden, but they're not obvious. You drive along the road and you won't see them, but they put defensive weapons around Hoover Dam, basically because if Hoover Dam went, you'd lose something like 25% of your agricultural water, and you'd lose half of LA's drinking water. And if you lost half of LA's drinking water, you would have a difficult social problem on your hands. You'd have social difficulties. Because you can imagine straight away LA going, I want water now. You have water now. I want you to give me your water.
Have you heard of the QAnon conspiracy?
I did, but it rings a bell, but I don't. I can't.
You should look it up. You'd love it. Do you remember the Pizzagate conspiracy?
I do.
The insane conspiracy that these people came up with. The people who made it up didn't believe it, but they did it to whip up the lunatics. They said that the Democrats were a big pedophile child ring, which is only half true. Half the Democrats are in a pedophile sex ring.
Being run out the Republicans.
With half the Republicans and all the billionaires. It was being run out of the basement of a pizza place in Washington, D.C., a building that incidentally doesn't have a basement.
I was going to say they don't actually have a basement.
But there's a bunch of people who for real believed it.
Well, and the reason they did was because it was a Democrat hangout. They
Yeah.
used to go to this pizza place to eat
And they got
pizza
all
and
these
chat.
private messages. And there was this thing, and it dates back to the 70s, because I remember seeing this in vigilante films in the 70s that pedophiles, organized pedophiles who traded children, apparently referred to them as chicken. And they'd use food euphemisms, and chicken was a popular one. And these guys decided in these private chats where the Democrats were always talking about getting pizza, that pizza was the current
code word.
Code word for little children. And Karen, hello, Karen, how are you?
Hey, Karen.
And okay, so that was insane. But QAnon is the 100 times more insane spin-off of Pizzagate. It makes Pizzagate look sane.
Okay.
And that is like super troubling that someone can go so far. They make pizza. They believe that it's all tied into that whole deep state idea. Donald Trump is going to expose this pedophile ring any day now. Rukasan, how you going, buddy?
Hey, Rukasan.
And it's like I won't even really make videos about QAnon because they're so unhinged and so deranged. They
Can you
try
just
to
give me a rundown?
Okay, there's a character who goes by the code name Q, who's been giving out secret information. So he's anonymous. He's Q Anon. And he's been going to like 4chan and 8chan and sending them messages about what's going to happen. And they get obsessed with, you know how crazy conspiracy people get obsessed with codes and images and symbols?
Yes.
They do this
and
all
they
the
use
time.
numbers to link stuff, and they use stars, and it's all just weird connected.
So if Trump ever mentions, if Trump ever mentions numbers in a speech, they think that he's sending them secret messages, and it's absolutely wild. They is that the real Karen Alloy?
Hey, Karen.
Sorry, I'm just Karen is an old. If it's not someone just using the name, Karen is an old school YouTuber. Yeah, it links back to your channel. I actually met Karen years ago in the States. Karen is like
Karen. Hey, Karen, how you doing?
Wowzers, 5 a.m. You can't sleep, and that just feels more than a little bit special to see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for not sleeping and saying hello to us.
Yeah, it's like 5 a.m. in Karen's part of the world, I think. And Miss Foxification's joined us. Hello. Well, incels are a whole different thing. QAnon's just a special sort of.
We're going to do a thing about incels. We're going to do a whole picking up chicks.
Yeah,
AIDzee
got horrified when he looked into how bad incels actually are.
I am freaked out by how bad it's got.
Yeah.
Because I used to train comics and young men on basically how to change their approach to people so that they'd be more likely to be happily accepted. That's the best way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So essentially one of the things that these guys always used to come out with was women are bitches, they're horrible, and they won't root me because it's them and they're fucked and blah, 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 blah. And I used to tell them, look, try these 3 techniques.
Yes.
Okay? Try these 3 techniques, and 90% of the time, I wouldn't see them for a month.
Yeah.
And I'd go, oh, I've lost a client. He's gone. He's gone. But then a month later, he'd come back and say, I'm sorry I've been missing. I tried out your techniques and I've been up to my nose in roots. And oh my God, if you do this stuff, women will actually drag you off to bed. So now you've got to tell me the rest of the training, okay? And a couple of guys actually got out notebooks, and I just thought that's really sweet. But
and I will point out, this is not pickup artist bullshit. It's the opposite.
no.
The starting point is recognize this is a human being you're talking to.
That's it. It's about recognizing the humanity in yourself and the humanity in another, and learning respect of yourself and respect of the other, and learning that what you're doing is sharing an experience, and you're not taking, you're not you're not scoring, you're not you're not basically getting points. None of that is happening. What's happening is two people are sharing an experience. And if there's ways and means to make that a real thing, because you change your own mindset. And by changing your own mindset, you're changing the mindset of the woman or guy that you're talking to. And you start getting closer. And look, I'm talking also about one night stands. I've had plenty of those, but they were all special. They're all meaningful, and they're all they're all about this sharing, this thing about mutual respect, enjoyment, and giving. There's a lot of giving, but it's not giving so that you're losing. It's not giving so that you're giving away. It's giving so that you're building, right? So two people are building, and so we're going to do a series on that. We're going to do a series on how to pick up chicks, bow, chicka, bow, bow, and it's going to be essentially a mockery of all these pickup artists stuff, and stuff that works. A lot of respectful pickup channels have a lot of emphasis on how you look, right? And one of the things I want to tell you right now, right this very second, is that if you are in a room with 60 people in it, right? There's a room full of 60 people. 2 of the people in that room think that you're sexy as hell. I am not lying to you. A lot of the problem with these incels, and a lot of the problem with young guys and young women, is they think I'm not pretty enough, I'm not, good looking enough, I'm not worthy enough. I guarantee you, if there's 60 people in a room, 2 of them would love to take you home and do rude things to you. So what you've got to do is open up and open your eyes, and you'll probably find them. Generally speaking, if you don't like yourself, then you project this to the outside world. True story. Everyone has been challenged with getting over their own baggage in this life. True story. And becoming something better. Absolutely, Karen. Absolutely. And one of the things about baggage is that you can't let it go. So if you own it, if you go, I have a problem with XYZ, I now recognize that, and I'm going to own it, carry it with me But what I'm not going to do is try and give it to someone else. I'm not going to make anyone else carry it, right? I'm going to carry it. And as you do that, you'll work up muscles that'll make it lighter and lighter and lighter. And eventually you'll find that it's evaporated. But as long as you're not trying to give your baggage to someone else, you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Own it.
Yeah, if I think anyone who says they're having relationship problems, if it's possible to speak to them about it, if they're not just psycho, I want to say like, well, what's your end game? Like, where you get something, particularly with the guys who self-describe as an incel or an MRA, men's rights activist, or MGTOW, men going their own way, and they're complaining about bloody women. And you go, okay, dude, what is your end goal? What's the end? Is the end goal to have some form of relationship? If so, is your negative, toxic shit going to get you there?
That's right.
Of course, then you will have discovered among the scary incels, the black pill ones. These are the ones who have given up and who are indulging in homicidal rage and actively praise the various mass shooters who have sprung from the incel forums. They're the scariest. But the guys who go like, I'm upset, things haven't worked out my way, I've decided it's because women are shit. It's like, okay,
yeah, dude, and you see those fuckers, and you go, there's the old common thing, and it's very popular in America. This saying is, you walk around town, you meet an asshole, you meet an asshole. If you walk around town and you keep on meeting assholes, maybe you're the asshole.
Yeah.
If all women are shit, then maybe it's something you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah. You remember when we were making the videos with Emma, Mistress M, about relationships?
Yeah.
We got a question from one guy, and he was talking about, this was the question of, do women actually enjoy anal sex and whatever? And he said something about having tried it with, and it was a number of women, like somewhere between 3 to 6 women, and they all complained it was a painful, terrible experience. And he's like, what's wrong with that? And I started off jokingly saying, you know what the common thread in those 6 experiences, 6 bad experiences is? The one common denominator is you. And I was joking. I was just lighthearted. And it was that if you meet assholes all day, maybe you're the arsehole. And I was joking. And then he snapped and went on this big rant and went, okay, dude, I was joking initially, but your attitude is coming vomiting out now.
Yeah.
I'm actually now convinced you're the problem. The fact that you've had a consistent problem with women and you see it always being them, and say they're all different, they're all variables, you're the constant.
Yeah. And, you get the other big problem with your incels, and this scares me, and I know where it comes from, and I'm going to do this in one of the sessions. There's a history of this, and it actually comes from a place. It comes from the 1990s, right?
Okay,
it actually comes from a place.
1990s. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was basically when the feminazis ruled. And the Generation X girls got abandoned by the boomer feminazis. They fell into the arms of the waiting X generation guys who were surprisingly forgiving. And then their sisters saw this, wanted fucking nothing to do with it. And the young guys saw this and saw the whiplash opportunity. And now what you've got is the next season coming through, and what they see is the guys older than them are getting all the roots and they're getting nothing. And they're bitter about it and they don't know why. And effectively what scares me is a lot of guys equate sex with power. And that is really quite frightening.
Yeah.
Because they, they see this penetrative act as, yeah, I'm, and you see it in the incels all the time.
Mm.
I should be the powerful one.
Mm.
Hey, Mega Leech, how you doing? Good to see you guys. And you see these guys, and they're all about, I should have the power to tell
Mm.
women what to do. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, there's no power involved.
Yeah.
Stop with the power thing. It's not, you're talking to a real human being who's
Yeah.
got a real life and a real history and a real world.
Mm.
Um, I am always amazed at people who walk around town and they see other people around them as NPCs. They
Mm.
don't
Mm. Mm.
recognize that the people around them walking around the city, walking around the shopping mall, have got a life just as rich, just as detailed,
Yeah.
just as complicated as yours.
Yes.
Everyone you see, I just got something thrown at me. I don't know what it was. Oh, it was my phone. Sorry. My phone fell off because I hit it with my elbow.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've got a life just as rich and as complicated as yours.
Yes.
And what tends to happen is you get these guys starting to look at women
Yep.
also as NPCs.
Yes.
They don't have the same textural quality to their
Yes.
life as they do.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so as a result, they start to think of themselves as the center of the especially the sexual acts, but they start to see themselves as the center of the active part of any connection or relationship with
Mm.
someone else.
Yeah.
And that's a slippery, slippery, slippery slope.
Yeah.
Um, and you can really fuck up yourself and others with that. What happens if you're stuck with someone who's an asshole in your direct family? So, okay, one of the things about that is that assholes are made, not born.
Good point.
And one of the things about being with an asshole is you tend to stop listening to them. You tend to stop listening to their shit because it's always bullshit. So, what the trick there is to go, this asshole is talking their shit. What are they needing emotionally from the shit they're talking? What are they needing physically from the shit that they're talking? What are they needing? Uh, how shall I put this? When I say physically, what I mean, no. We'll say physically and we'll say materially. What do they need
Yeah.
materially from what they're
Yeah.
talking? So what happens is assholes say shit, yeah?
Yeah.
And then you go whack and it hits you and it hurts you, right? So what you got to do is you've got to do a matador and you've got to step sideways and get out of the way of their shit and go,
Yeah.
right, I've seen this shit go past me. What do they need emotionally, physically, and
Mm.
materially? Why are they saying this stuff?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this attack? What do
Mm.
they need? And then you can calmly think this through and go, okay, they're jealous of something.
Mm.
They require something because they're either addicted or they're entitled, or they feel entitled. or they are insecure about something. There's a lot of, different asshole things that they talk about, and you can essentially go, all right, their needs are this. What you do is you go, okay, I am going to be totally calm and say, okay, I will do 90% of what you want, but only 90%, because then they get the feeling that their needs are being met almost. And then they will basically be calmer about needing that thing again. And they'll need to come back to you and go, I need this thing again. You go, yeah, no worries, yeah, sweet. And you give them 95%. And when they finally get to a point where they're respectful, polite, and generous, then you give them 100%. You basically don't reward bad behavior, but you show them that you don't need to scream and yell when they're screaming and yelling. You don't need to be upset when they're screaming and yelling. When they're screaming and yelling, you go, oh, okay, so you're saying this to me? And they go, no, I'm saying blah, blah, blah. Oh, so you need this and this to happen. Yeah. And you watch them deflate like a balloon. They're just like, come right down. If you're not screaming and yelling and you're just going, oh, okay, so I'm listening respectfully to what you're saying and I'm not escalating. I don't need to defend myself from your bullshit.
Yes.
I have matadored out of the way. I've analysed what you need. I have calmly gone through it. And then I basically go, oh, so you need blah and blah and blah. And then oftentimes you can do stuff like a bargain, like a haggle. They'll go, you're not going out, you're helping me with blah. And you go, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I can help you with blah. I do need to go out, but yeah, man, I can give you some help with blah, but maybe at 9 o'clock I'll bail. Before then, yeah, let's get into it now. Let's go. Let's take this on, and basically that stops. Again, you'll see them deflate. You'll see them go, I can't fight this because he said yes.
Yeah.
And he said yes, but he's going at 9. I can't say you can't go at 9 because if we really get into it, we might even get it finished by 8:30, and that is a beautiful thing. If you get it finished by 8:30, you have a shower, you get changed, and you bail.
Yeah.
And there's no hold, there's no grip anymore.
Yeah.
It's gone. There's a lot of cases where they say you're grounded.
Yes.
You're grounded. That's it. Deal with it. Analyze it.
Yes.
Work out why you got grounded. Because sometimes, you know what? You did fuck up. Sometimes you really did fuck up.
Yeah.
I snuck out of the house when I was a kid and got wildly intoxicated on a number of different substances. Not unusual, even today. But I got back into the house quiet as a mouse at 3 o'clock in the morning to find my parents having a cup of tea, waiting for me to come home. And I was given a chat And I was also given some physical reminders that one is not to sneak out of the house at midnight. And I was liars are lying to themselves first. Karen, you're fucking right about that. Yeah, because when you lie, you start to think that I can get away with self improvement by putting this on a foundation of bullshit. And you know what? Everything always comes back to roost.
Yes,
Always.
it does.
Anyway, I come home at 3 and I was fucked. I mean, I was like, and I knew it was like game was up. You know, there's no getting out of this. You know, it was no. Oh, I just popped out for a piss in the backyard. No, you didn't. You've been gone for 3 hours. You look like a mess and you're fucked. And I was like, yeah, I'm screwed. And I was 2 months under incredible pressure because I used to have random room searches. Used to happen over a couple of weeks. By my folks, especially my old man, used to come and just randomly room search. I kept a diary for a little while, and I found it and read it. Shit.
Yikes.
That hurt. And you know what was weird was when I was in university, I was supposed to keep journals of different things, and I never could. The experience of having that diary found freaked me out so much that I could never write things down for, you know, like experiences, because I was always, you know, freaking out. Anyway, so I'd have these random room searches, and I had to find ways to hide stuff that couldn't be found, like cigarettes, like drugs, like did your porn magazines get taken? You know, Safford, the weirdest thing was porn was fine in my house.
That happened to me, actually. Yeah,
porn was fine in my house. Basically, my old man would get it first, then mum would get it, and then me and my brother would get it last. There was never any information which was forbidden in our house. There was behaviour which was forbidden, but there was never any information which was forbidden. There was no censorship of anything at any time. One of the other things that was interesting about living in my place was I went to a Catholic school, and they're clever about censorship. They are really clever about censorship. They don't ban books. They don't do that. They just don't talk about them. They just don't make them available, and they just don't talk about them. So, especially leftist stuff, it's just not there. It's like really amazing when you get to uni or you get out into the world with your own studies and you find there's this whole world, especially politically, that the Catholic system has hidden from you by essentially not showing it to you, because you're a high school student. You're trying to get out of doing work. You're not trying to, push yourself to do more work. You're trying to do less work. And they know that unless they make you read this stuff, you're not going to. And they also know if it's not in the library, you're not going to find it. So they just didn't put it in the library. They just didn't talk about it. They just didn't show it to you. Never banned it. Just didn't talk about it. But in my house, nothing was banned. Everything was discussed. It was just behaviour that was limited. And my 3 o'clock come home was
frowned upon.
bad. 2 months worth of daily room searches and extra work, and I had to essentially work from 7 o'clock in the morning. No, I was swimming at the time, so we would wake up at 4:30. We'd get in the pool at 5. We'd get out at 7. We'd have breakfast and go to school. After school, I'd come home. I'd start doing homework. Then I'd look after the little one. Then I had to get dinner on. I had to get the table ready. Mum would come home, take over the little one. Then I had to do some homework. Then I would have to do the extra work that my old man had set up. It was always just a nightmare. And then I would have to finish my homework, which he would then sign in the morning. Because he'd look at the question sheet, the notes of what you got to do for homework and what I'd done, and go through it and sign it. And then essentially I wouldn't be getting to sleep until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then at 4:30, I'm up again. And this happened for 2 months. And at the end of the 2 months,
it's beating you down a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, after the first 3 weeks, it was over. I was just a jellied mess.
Yeah.
And by the end of the 2 months, I did learn an important lesson.
Yeah.
The body follows where the mind goes.
Okay.
You can do anything.
Okay.
You can do anything if you decide to do it, and you decide that you're going to make it happen. And you don't be a dickhead about it. I mean, don't shoot yourself in the head and decide you're gonna not die, because you know what, you're gonna. But you can climb a mountain. Yes, there's risk. Of course, there's risk. There's risk in everything.
Yes.
I'm talking to you now with several broken bones.
Yes.
And I'd like to not have several broken bones, but it's more important to talk to you than to fantasy make it. It does have some truth to it, Karen. It does, actually. Because what you're doing is you're going, right, mind, this is the truth. And eventually it becomes the truth.
Yes.
Old actor's trick too. Good morning, Environmental Coffee House. How you doing? Thank you for coming.
And who else came in? Kenny says he's excited to see you.
Oh, g'day, Kenny. How you doing, man? It's good to see you, dude.
I was thinking, look, last 20 minutes, we could mix it up. There's a couple of things we could do. One thing we could do is invite other people into the chat. That could be a wild experience, because we can have up to 6 people in this.
Wow.
Does that sound like a wild and crazy thing we want to try?
Well, I don't see why not.
Because I can also kick people out, of course.
Yeah. We have decided we are no longer happy with your attitude.
Yeah. So if you have webcam happening and want to, I just put a link that you can click on. Environmental Coffee House. This isn't Hangouts. This is using a service called StreamYard, because Google killed Hangouts. But I found this new service, and it's called StreamYard, and it's really good, and it has all these features that are very easy to use.
Is this a Google thing?
No, this is not. This is an independent. A couple of really young guys have developed it. It's in its beta stage at the moment.
I can see the duck with the beta under it.
Yes. I'm not altogether sure why a duck is their logo. But no, it's a web thing. There's literally just a link there. If you click on the link, it's a web-enabled thing, and you can join the chat. You don't have to install a thing, which is super awesome, because, once Google killed Hangouts, their alternatives were like a huge fucking hassle to use, and I was really frustrated. And after a couple of days of struggling with other things that I couldn't get to work, someone linked me to this one, StreamYard, and it's so
really
easy to use. I love it. Love it. It lets you do a bunch of things. So, yeah, I'm pretty sold on it. Like, I'm actually paying them. It's a modest monthly payment, but I'm paying them at the moment to get a few extra features. And because they're, a couple of entrepreneurial young lads coming up with something, and it's super bloody useful as far as I'm concerned. So
Safa got called up for jury duty. Safa, jury duty. Very important.
Go to the halls of justice. Yeah.
Or do you let him go free? Who knows?
Hello.
Look at the evidence.
Oh, look, Catherine's joining us. Hello.
Hey, Catherine. How you doing? How are you?
You're in?
Wait. Yeah.
Sorry, what?
I decided to come.
Thank you,
I decided
Catherine.
to come.
Thank you. It is good to see you.
I can play with all these little windows. What else?
You
can do that. There's like 3 of us there now.
Hi.
There you go. Hey, Catherine, what's going on? What's happening?
I just got in from yoga.
From yoga?
Nice.
Yeah. I thought
so you're really mellow and chilled right now after giving it some ohm.
Not really. No, I fall over a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I fall over a lot too, but I've got arthritis and balance problems. And
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I do very well in yoga either, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I reckon you'd be good at yoga. You know what? I reckon you and I should do Tai Chi.
Yeah, maybe.
Join the old people in the park. That's us, the old people.
Yeah, the old people in the park doing a little bit of, mind you, I've seen an old lady do the Tai Chi, because all of the Tai Chi moves are in fact martial moves. They're all fighting moves.
But slowed down.
But slowed right down so that you can get them just perfect. But speeding them up is nothing. I've seen a Tai Chi master basically go through the whole kata of Tai Chi in 45 seconds. And it looks like it would kill someone. This guy is 72 years old, and he went through the whole Tai Chi kata, which takes traditionally about 10 minutes. And he went through the whole thing in 45 seconds, and I thought anyone near that guy is going to just die. There's a lot of broken bones and a lot of being hit in the head and having cracked spine and broken neck. A lot of it is about if someone punches you, your elbow all of a sudden becomes twisted and a lot of that. Yeah. I'm doing it with my right arm because if I did it with my left arm,
that'd be too much. Yeah,
bad things would happen. Yeah.
Karen's saying she does Tai Chi every day. She could do a live thing to teach. Oh, she also admits we're all getting old. Environmental Coffee House used to do mixed martial arts, but she damaged her spine. Used to do Tai Chi. Oh, that's bad. Oh, Kenny's coming late. You can hear the story. AIDzee fell down some stairs and broke many bones.
Yes, I fell down. I fell down 30 stairs and I broke my collarbone in 2 places, and I broke 3 ribs and fractured 2 more. And I then in hospital got pneumonia, so that I was coughing, and my ribs would start to heal. Then I'd cough and they'd break again. And one of the fractured ones broke as well when I was coughing. And unfortunately, because of history, I wasn't allowed to have drugs. And it really hurt. And eventually the nurse
I'm going to Karen talked about getting old. I'm going to see I don't know, Karen, if you ever remember from the very early days in YouTube, a couple of times I put my kids on videos. They were very little, and
They were
very little. You want to know old? They're both at university now. So,
I sent a message to Angry. When was it? Yesterday, and I was saying, "How's the fam? How's the kids?" And then I put in brackets, "Except they're not kids anymore." Oh my god, I'm so old. And
I've got them in my eyes. Sorry.
You're having an allergic reaction there, Catherine. What's happening?
Oh, my eye is completely watering.
That's okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Catherine, gotta go and treat that eye.
Fair enough. I respect eye treatment. I've seen eye treatment before, and I think it's completely fair enough.
Karen, your oldest is 18. Mine are 19 and 21. So, and AIDzee used to put young Mr. Angry around playfully when he was little, and he's now taller than both of us. So, can't do that.
Yeah, and he's got a deeper voice than me.
Wow.
And the other one is starting to get a deeper voice than me.
Yeah.
I used to tell this kid stories when he was tiny, and we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, Mrs. Angry's son. See, we're one of these modern mixed households. I have two kids from a previous relationship, and Mrs. Angry has a son from previous relationship. So, and they'll be at different houses. So we'll have between 0 and 3 offspring in the house. But yeah, like again, the youngest is Mrs. Angry's lad. He's in year 11 now, and I've gone to his deep voice. I found a video the other day of him, and it's only about 3 years old, and it's before his voice, and I'm like, that is not him. That is not him. Like he's got this deep, resonant voice, and only 2-3 years ago, he had this pre-voice breaking, really high pitched, and it's just like, time. What the hell? What is time even?
Yeah. Where'd that go? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's really unfair. It's really unfair. Kenny, is it still sore, AIDzee? Are you getting better? Kenny, it's amazingly fucking sore. Spectacularly sore. And I am getting better, but the trouble is I'm not 21 anymore. So it's going to
our age, it takes about 6 months to recover from something like that.
It's going to take about 4 months to recover properly. And unfortunately, what keeps on happening is I keep on getting bumped into, or I do something and my collarbone, especially, will, because it's broken in 2 places, it's got to float back together. And what will happen is one edge will pop, and you got to start again. And I've got a sling that I wear. I've taken it off tonight because I didn't want to freak everyone out. And the ribs, every time I cough, one of them will break again. So you've got to start again. The trouble with the ribs is they've broken down the side. Got a nice mask, man. They've broken down the side between my armpit and my hip, right? That's where they broke. But as they broke, they fractured at my spine. So I'll cough, one of them will break, and the fracture at the spine will open up again. And so I've got all this referred pain that goes up my spine to my jaw, and down my spine to my knee. Right? And so it's immobilizing. I missed a couple of hospital appointments, and they rang me up really shitty and said, "You've got to come to the hospital because you've got to get your." And I said, "Guys, I can't get out of the house."
Sorry,
In the first, yeah. I mean, the first week, it was taking me literally 2.5, 3 hours to get dressed. It was taking me 2 hours to have a shower, and my shower only runs for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'd have to do a bit, come out, wait 10 minutes for it to heat up, go back in, do another bit, come out, wait 10 minutes for it to heat up, go back in. And meanwhile, I had to have the shower sling on. So I've got one wet bra and one dry bra. And so the sling's on, and I'm just doing everything with one hand.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many things you've got to do with two hands. It's spectacular, the stuff you've got to do with two hands. And when you've got one hand that's out of action, and of course, because my life is special, my other hand has got a walking stick in it all the time. So I get no hands. So, I've got to put the walking stick in between my legs, and it's, not socially.
From when I went over to your place the other weekend, it's like, okay, I'm going to come over, get yourself ready. And it took 3 hours for you to get out of bed, have a shower, get dressed, and get down the stairs. That was a 3-hour process.
Yeah.
So it's like
quick now.
I was about to say you're a bit better now.
Yeah, it only takes an hour.
To bring this up. Environmental Coffee House was asking previously about opioid paranoia and whatnot. See, because
I've had that.
You've had opioids?
No, not opioid, but I go on like Brufen and I get completely and utterly paranoid, and like can't sleep.
Yes, I know what you mean. What you mean. They put me on Suboxone, which is a kind of Brufen, and what it does is it blocks opioids going into your system, and what it also does is it blocks when you in a normal day you have these tiny little puffs of adrenaline. Okay, so you notice something, and you look up, and there's a tiny little puff of adrenaline to get your brain active to see something new, or to do something new, or to change your concentration into something that has happened that is new. So you get these tiny, tiny little puffs of adrenaline, and they're mopped up almost straight away. As soon as you get used to the new behavior or the new thing that you're seeing, it just goes away. Now, the trouble with the Brufen and the Suboxone, they're very similar, is they don't allow the mop-up process to happen. So your adrenaline builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. So by the time sunset comes, you're ready to chew glass. Freaking out, and you're so uptight that you don't know how. Hey, David, how you doing, man? You don't know how you're gonna. You mustn't talk to anyone because you growl at them.
I'm living on my own in my own house with no one.
Oh man. So everything would be closing in, but also then what happens is a couple of hours after this full-on peak of
paranoia,
and full-on adrenaline-fueled just nastiness, is your body can't make any more adrenaline. It runs out of the chemicals that allows you to make adrenaline. And so what happens then is it just gets sucked up by your kidneys and gets excreted out. And then, weirdly enough, about 3 hours after the peak of the adrenaline-fueled paranoia and aggression, it just all goes away. But it's a really unpleasant experience. This stuff was invented by the Israeli Army Medical Corps to get their boys off the heroin. And it works like a charm.
So how close is that to morphine?
Sorry?
How close is that to morphine or something like that?
I missed that, Catherine. What'd you say?
How close is brufen to morphine?
It's very far away. Very far away to morphine. It basically chews up morphine. And that's what it's for. It chews up Suboxone and brufen chew up morphine, and what they do is they put little caps around the electrical signals that go when you get opioids into your system. So you eat the opioids or you drink whatever, and they have little tiny keys that go into your nerves, which send signals and make you stoned. And then what the brufen and the Suboxone do is they read these signals, these keys, and they not only chop up the keys, but when the key hits your nerve, they basically go into the nerve and they go, no, you're not sending any signals. And you effectively can't have opioid stuff. Karen says I should never have morphine again. I had it once, pure bliss. I obviously loved it. At the same time, please never give it to me again because I love it too much. You know what, Karen? When I was a kid, when I was 19, and this is like 30 years ago, I had heroin 4 times. Only 4 times. But after the 4th time, I said, I will never do this again because if I do, I will do nothing else but have heroin. And
I don't know that.
It took me 9 months to stop thinking about having heroin every day. Every day I thought, geez, a hit of the smack would be nice. And I hadn't had any. Like, I only had it 4 times.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, you know what, I would really like this. And I just went, no, man, don't do it. Don't do it, man. And the morphine is effectively very good for pain relief, but it's also addictive. Just recently in Australia, what has happened was anything that contains codeine has been put onto a prescription list. So it's banned. It's basically banned. And I used to be very addicted to codeine. What codeine is a slower release morphine. The codeine comes into your system, passes through your liver, turns into morphine, does its thing. And instead of getting it all at once, you get it over about an hour, about half an hour. And so the doctors hated it, and they all lobbied the government. And one of the problems was that a drug rep went to the Prime Minister of the time and said, congratulations on your population increase. And he said, what do you mean? Because we celebrated our 22nd millionth baby, You know, 22 million people. He said, congratulations on having 38 million people. And he said, what are you talking about? We've only got 22. He said, no, you got 38. We are selling enough codeine to satisfy 38 million people. Now, this guy was grumpy and a Christian and lost his fucking mind. He was furious. And so he went into it, and the doctors were going, "You beauty, let's go." And they found out that something along the lines of 12% of Australians were addicted to codeine.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, it was all AIDzee. It was,
most of it was.
Yeah,
most of it was. And it was full on. I was basically taking it because I was in a lot of pain, and I thought if I could stop the pain, then I could keep working. And basically, you can't.
Isn't that always the way it starts? You're like, I just need a little bit of painkillers to get through work. And then those painkillers have to be so bloody high, you end up addicted.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was taking so many painkillers that if anyone took what I was taking, they would die.
You're weird, so you didn't die.
Well, no, it just took a long time to reach those levels. But I was talking to some psychologists, one of them being a family member, and told them how many I was taking, and they said, that's enough to kill 15 people. You've really got to get off the painkillers. I zoomed in on Angry Blast to see how many prawn tabs are open. There you go.
He's from the Secret Service. I just thought I'd put that one up. And look, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go to bed. It's a work.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, it is.
So thank everyone for joining. Thanks for coming in and joining us in the chat, Catherine. It's nice to have you dropping in.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to show my face for once.
Yeah, it's nice to have you in. And thanks everyone for coming in the chat. Wow, super blast from the past seeing you, Karen. It was fun having you pop in there, one of the OG YouTubers. But yeah, look after yourself, everyone, one and all. Look, we'll be back anon, chatting and whatnot. Look after yourselves in the meantime. Yes, for those of you, the insomniacs who are in here, are just starting your day. Have a good day. And the rest of us maybe go to bed. Look, people work different hours, but I'm going to bed. So see you later, one and all. Bye for now.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for allowing me to be on